Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Tuesday. No clouds, and it's only like 80 degrees, and right now it's 75. But you know, it's gonna get the days will get shorter from here on out, and the weather will get cooler. Hey, smoke. And you know, fall is just around the corner, and the leaves are already starting to change a little bit. We got a few more lawn mowing sessions left to go here in our yards. So yeah, it goes by quick, you know, summer. And you know, one of the things I was talking to a friend of mine about today was the Bangor State Fair, how it came and went without much fanfare, you know, and then we started talking about how the kids are getting ready to go back to school and everything, and it seemed like, Jesus, didn't we just come into fucking summer and already the kids are gonna have to go back to school? You know, so yeah, time flies, and it's really, I think when you get older, the rhythms of life seem to go by faster, because when you're young, it's all new, kind of, and it just seems like a year takes forever. But when you're an adult, a year goes by as soon as you're done celebrating the new year, you're already getting ready for the next one, you know. And that's why people always say life is too short. It really is short. And 50 years goes by like that, you know. Before you know it, you turn 50, and you know, you realize then you probably got fewer days ahead than you do behind. So, you know, it's humbling, I guess. Anyway, speaking of humbling, I got a couple of videos here to show, and this first one's from Ben Marsalis, and he'll be talking about the redistricting issue there, the plan in Texas here and in California, and what's how MAGA's reacting to that. So let's go to that, and then we'll discuss it on the other side.
MAGA Republican leaders are freaking out because they did not think through this unlawful gerrymandering plan in Texas. And they didn't think that the Democrats were going to punch back. But Democratic governors are not just punching back, they're delivering the uppercut and knockout blow. We're seeing California Governor Gavin Newsom says, okay, you do what you're going to do, Texas. The moment you implement your unlawful gerrymander, we will put a trigger here in California, and we will get rid of the Republican congressional districts, to which the MAGA Republicans, who have some of the seats in California, though a smaller number of seats, they're like, no, don't do that to us. We need to stop partisan gerrymandering. What's going on? This is so unfair. You did it first. You're doing it in Texas. And let me remind everybody that back in 2021, it was the Democrats who introduced a law that the Republicans voted down that would have totally got rid of partisan gerrymandering. It was one of former President Biden's first acts in office, and all of the MAGA Republicans said, nope, we want gerrymandering, because they never expected that Democrats were actually going to fight back, which is happening now. I just want to remind everybody, right? 2021, For the People Act HR1, remove gerrymandering. Biden wanted to push it through. MAGA Republicans said nope. Take a look at what the MAGA Republican Congress member from California, Kevin Kiley, is saying. You can't make it up. This is the guy, Kiley, who wants to kill, or he encouraged the Trump regime to kill high-speed rail in California. Good work there, Kiley, getting rid of tens of thousands of jobs in California. Nothing says a patriot like getting your own constituents fired. Well done, Kiley. This is what he said yesterday after he's like, oh crap, the Democrat governors are actually fighting back. Newsom, Hochul, Pritzker, and others across the country. So MAGA Republican Kevin Kiley goes, I am introducing legislation in Congress to stop Newsom's corrupt scheme to overthrow our Citizens Redistricting Commission and make California a permanent one-party state. Excuse me? I'll read on. My bill prohibits congressional districts from being redrawn in the middle of the decade. This isn't parody, folks. It sounds like it, but this is really what the MAGA Republican Congress member said after they're doing what they're doing in Texas. And California says, we're only going to do it in response if Texas actually goes through with it. And the MAGA Republicans like, you can't do it. We're the victims now. We're MAGA Republicans. This goes on to say, this is already the law in California under our state constitution, which provides that redistricting is done once a decade by an independent commission. But Newsom is planning to blow all of this up so he can impose his own partisan map on voters before the next election. Fortunately, Congress has the ability to protect California voters using its authority under the election clause of the U.S. Constitution. This will also stop a damaging redistricting war from breaking out across the country. And then he continued to whine all day. And we saw other MAGA Republican Congress members in blue states do the same. Kiley then goes, KCRA has obtained the proposed ballot language for Newsom's redistricting scheme. It is even more shamelessly dishonest than I expected. The first sentence says the measure retains the Citizens Redistricting Commission when the entire point is to push it aside. You may want to read a little bit longer because it retains or maintains the Citizen Redistrict Commission so long as Texas doesn't engage in its unlawful gerrymandering scheme. The moment Texas does what it's going to do, California is going to fight fire with fire. New York is going to fight fire with fire. What'd you think that we were going to do? I mean, can you believe it? So then you have Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas. So he's like, oh crap, this may be backfiring and blowing up in my face. So he makes his rounds. Of course, he goes to state regime media known as Fox. And then this Greg Abbott, the guy who's doing the unlawful gerrymandering in the first place that Democrats now have to respond to. They don't want to have to respond to, but they are going to respond to it. Fight fire with fire, assert the moral authority that needs to be done. Greg Abbott goes, look, the real problem here is it's the gerrymandering in the blue states. They've distorted the politics in America, so we have to respond to that. No, it's you and Donald Trump wanting to rig the map before the midterms because y'all know how Americans actually feel about you. Watch what Greg Abbott has to say here. Play this clip.
I think Donald Trump won in all 5 of these seats that we will be making Republican seats. The same thing should apply in all those other states, Sean, that you mentioned in your monologue where you pointed out the gross gerrymandering in these blue states have rejected Republican candidates for office that should be serving those states, should be serving our country. It's the gerrymandering in the blue states that has distorted the politics in America.
All right, Governor, good for you. Good for the fight. We'll see if these guys show up and do their job as they should do. But clearly, they don't want the same rules applied to them. That's what this story is really all about.
And then you have the MAGA Republican candidate for governor in California, this guy Hilton, and he goes, so now Gavin Newsom wants to steal the seats in California from the Republicans. He wants to get rid of the Republican districts. Y'all did this. This is happening in Texas. I mean, can you believe these sociopaths? The moment you stand up to these bullies and fight the MAGA bullies back, they back down, they play the victim, they go, oh, why are you doing this to me? It's why you have to go on the offense and assert yourself with these losers. Here, play this clip.
It is illegal. It is unconstitutional. My friend Tom McClintock, who endorsed me for governor, is exactly right there. But here's what's going on. Everyone across the country needs to understand this. Gavin Newsom is planning to steal 5 Republican House seats next year by holding a special election this year to overturn the California Constitution and illegally grab power and make this state even more gerrymandered in Democrats' favor. Right now, Republicans have 40% of the vote in California, only 17% of the House seats. Gavin Newsom wants another 5. That will give us, for 40% of the vote, only 7% of the House seats in California, because Gavin Newsom wants to show that he is the guy fighting President Trump, winning the House majority for Democrats so they can impeach President Trump. I'm not going to let that happen. So what I will be announcing next week is a plan to stop Gavin Newsom stealing these seats and being able to impeach President Trump by filing legal actions on all the different arguments that we have. And you'll see that from me very clearly next week. We cannot allow Gavin Newsom to get away with it. And by the way, when I'm governor, I will restore the integrity of our system in California so we have fair representation. That would give us an additional 12 Republican House seats in California. That is what fair representation would look like.
So here's Governor Newsom yesterday, a press conference we covered live here on the Midas Touch Network. He goes, we're going to fight fire with fire. Here, play this clip.
It's cause and effect. It's triggered on the basis of what occurs or doesn't occur in Texas. I hope they do the right thing. And if they do the right thing, then there'll be no cause for us to have to move forward. But again, we're working with the legislature on a trigger that if they do move forward, California will not sit by idly and watch this democracy waste away. We'll fight fire with fire. We'll assert ourselves and we'll punch above our weight. And it will have profound impacts on the national outcome, not just here in the state of California. I appreciate it's already led to some members of our delegation now calling for independent redistricting. That's an encouraging sign. So already, perhaps people are waking up to the reality of California entering into this conversation. We're not a small state. Again, we punch above our weight. It will have profound national implications if we move forward. And I'm confident if we move forward, the people of this great state will support this effort.
Here's New York Governor Hochul. She says, we are going to fight fire with fire. We're going to war against the red states if y'all do this illegal gerrymandering. In New York, sure, we wanted to do independent commissions, but we're changing the game in New York also. If you're changing the game in Texas, play this clip.
There's no way to stop this if we don't find a way to have some checks and balance in Washington, because we do not have it now. And if we don't stand up and fight, we'll not have it for the entirety of Donald Trump's tenure. And that is what is so frightening to me. You know what? I'm a New Yorker. I'm from Buffalo. Fighting is second nature to us. I'm not afraid of this. That's why I said bring it on, because Texas, bullies in Texas, are not going to intimidate us now or ever.
And then, folks, you have, of course, Governor Pritzker, who's protecting the Texas lawmakers. More on that in a moment. The Democratic representatives who are now currently in Illinois with Governor Pritzker because in Texas earlier yesterday, they passed a resolution to arrest the Democratic state representatives with the Texas sheriffs to arrest the Democrat state legislators for leaving the state. Here, play this clip of Governor Pritzker. Let's play it.
Texas Democrats were left no choice but to leave their home state, block a vote from taking place, and protect their constituents. This is a righteous act of courage. And we can all take a page from these leaders' playbook. When you show people that you have the will to fight, well, they can muster the will to fight too. Yeah. Courage is contagious.
And so, folks, as Democrats are asserting themselves, we're seeing a few things. Number one, this is very popular in the Democratic Party. This is very popular among independents. Democrats, 80+% want Democrats to be doing this. I don't know the 20% who don't. Amongst independents, it's almost that high as well. Independents, Democrats say, if Republicans do this, you need to fight back. Also, one of the things we're learning is that if the Democrat state legislators in Texas are able to stay in Illinois through December, they'll be able to deprive Texas of doing the unlawful gerrymander. Let me explain. Even their Attorney General, Ken Paxton, who was impeached, who's got all the moral, ethical, and criminal issues, Paxton acknowledged the timeline is problematic if Democrats fight back the way they are. A new map in Texas must be adopted by early December in order to be in place for the 2026 midterm cycle. So if Democrats can just hold out, stay in Illinois through December, that should be pretty good in order to stop what the MAGA Republicans are trying to do. I want to share this with you to show you people are on the side of Democrats. When I think people have said, oh, you know, the Democrats are unpopular, it's because they want to see Democrats fight against this fascist regime. That's what people want to see. So in Lincoln, Nebraska, MAGA Republican Congressmember Mike Flood held a town hall yesterday, and he was saying, look, everybody, the Republican Party, we represent the working class. We represent most Americans. And the people were not having it. Here, play this clip.
With all due respect, sir, the Republican Party now more than ever represents the heart and soul of the working class.
You know, our friends at Democracy Forward, Sky Perryman, who we've had her on before, she also broke down the law about the fact that MAGA Republican Governor Greg Abbott does not even have the authority to do what he claims he's going to do in terms of also removing these legislators for their seat. This Democracy Forward organization, again, we've had them on this network a ton. They said, look, most importantly, however, you and anyone who has taken a Texas history lesson, Abbott, knows that the ability of elected representatives in Texas to be absent from a legislative proceeding and to deny a quorum is provided by the Texas Constitution and has been a practice in the state since the 1800s. In 2021, the Texas Supreme Court, in a case cited in the very opinion by Attorney General Paxton that you referenced, affirmed that the Texas Constitution enables so-called quorum breaking as a tactic of the legislative minority. The decision by lawmakers to represent their communities by refusing to participate in the special session today, as the Texas Constitution recognizes an official act, not the abandonment of a constitutional duty or the failure to perform a duty, as your statement suggests. It is, in fact, the judgment of these lawmakers that their communities are best served by the quorum break, which is a prerogative that Texas lawmakers have the right to exercise under Texas Supreme Court precedent. So taking out that case law and bringing the precedent. Finally, I want to make this important point right here. Think about these two models. Our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, pointed this out. On the one hand, in our federal government, you have the MAGA Republican Congress members fleeing Washington, D.C., calling a recess in order to cover up Donald Trump's past with Jeffrey Epstein to provide cover for a sex trafficker, Ghislaine Maxwell, and to bury and hide the Epstein files. So, what do MAGA Republicans leave for? What do they leave town for? Protecting the Epstein files, protecting sex traffickers like Ghislaine Maxwell, okay? Democrats, what did they leave the state? This is a great point. The state legislature in Texas to do? To protect the sanctity of the vote for the people of Texas from an unlawful gerrymandering scheme. Democrats, when you fight back, you expose how weak these people are. They're weak. They play the victims. They whine. You're coming after me. That's just who they are. Fight fire with fire. These MAGAs are weak when you assert yourself, when you stand up. They play by a different set of rules. So do we. That's what you got to do. Keep fighting. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million. Thanks for watching.
So, I got a question here, in case everyone's forgot. Why wasn't Governor Abbott arrested for human trafficking when he was busing illegal immigrants from Texas to different states? And the same for DeSantis. Why were they not arrested? You know, maybe these Democrats that he's trying to get back into the state by civil arrest, whatever the fuck that means, okay? Maybe they need to bring that up to put him on the spot, saying, you know, we could start procedures on, you know, you getting into some trouble here for that if you want to really get dirty about it, okay? And the fact that Republicans left Washington, D.C. because they didn't want to vote or, you know, be at a, you know, to just on that Jeffrey Epstein stuff, they got a lot, they have a lot of room to talk, right? I mean, they're the ones that were walking out from having to do their duty, and now when the Democrats do it, oh, no, they can't do. Okay, you see what I'm saying about the hypocrisy? Whenever Democrats start to make their move to do something, Republicans play the victim. Even though they themselves are doing it, you see, it's ridiculous. I just, there's people I read that are switching from Republican to independent. Okay. They still, these are the people that think Democrats are also part of the problem. Okay. All right. Yeah. Like, you think in the last 7 months, all the shit that Trump's done, you think a Democrat would have done all those things? Get real. And I think, you know, other people had made the point that maybe all of this stuff here about redistricting and all that shit should happen to piss people off. So maybe they'll come to the realization that the Electoral College is just a tool to keep Republicans in power. And maybe it's time to get rid of that. That maybe now is the time to really make that argument, so there'll be a movement to get rid of this thing finally. Because I really think we don't need it. I really don't think we need it. Okay? You know, when we come up with this system of elections in this country, I think they come up with this Electoral College as a way to help one party or the other keep their fucking foot in the door, as it were. All right? So that way the real needs of the country are never met. And it's nice to see that Governor Newsom, you know, is saying, okay, you Republicans think it's okay to do what you're doing in Texas, then we Democrats are going to do the same in California. Okay, so that means Republicans in Texas have no reason or have any right now to complain. Okay, because they're doing exactly what they're criticizing Newsom of threatening to do. They're already doing it. But Newsom is telling you, you fucking do this shit, and we're going to do the same right here in California. Okay? And how the Republicans going to justify, you know, arguing that case and saying he's doing wrong when they've already done it? You see, this is the kind of fight that you have to fight. It's the kind of fight you got to fight. And why? Because it brings out the worst in the Republicans. Because what you're doing is you're taking their tactics and turning it on them. And for them to try to argue and say it's wrong is like, well, you're doing the same thing, so maybe you're doing it wrong too. You know what I'm saying? They don't know how to argue their way out of this. So, you know, I'm glad that, you know, finally somebody is going to, you know, put a mirror in front of these people and say, look, if you can't stand Democrats doing it, then maybe you people should just stop what you're doing too, because you're doing this. You are doing this. You're provoking us to do this, the retaliation. You do this, and so will we. Okay? You're trying to keep Trump in power. And here's the other side of this thing that I don't understand here. Okay, bear with me. The idea that Republicans care so much to hold on to seats, okay, or gain new seats, doesn't make much sense to me. The last 7 months, has Trump really gave a shit about what Congress or the Senate has said or anything about what he's doing? No. He's been using the Executive Powers Act to implement all kinds of shit, to go over the heads of Congress and the Senate. Why the fuck would he care about who's controlling them houses? In his mind, they're irrelevant. So what are we really fighting over here? What are the Republicans fighting over? Because Trump really isn't listening to them either. He's already betrayed a lot of these fucking people. What the hell are they fighting over? It's like a big nothing. Okay? The governors and all them, they're having this big fucking fight over electoral votes, I guess, if you want to call, that's what it boils down to. But at the end of the day, whoever gains control of the houses still is going to be in the same boat. Trump won't listen to you. If you're going to argue against something he's doing, he ain't going to listen to you. Because he's running this thing like a dictatorship. And in a dictatorship, you don't have a Congress. In a dictatorship, you don't have a Senate. In a dictatorship, you may not even have a Justice Department or the courts. That's what he's trying to do here, people. He's trying to abolish all this stuff, by default, essentially, by him doing everything himself. He's trying to eradicate the entire system by simply ignoring it. Okay? Whenever the courts decide something that, is against him, he don't care. It's just a piece of paper. They can't enforce it, and therefore it matters not. Matters not, okay? And so, what the hell does he care about what's going on with this? I mean, so, yeah. You got this big fight going on here with the, happening in the electoral college part of our government. But let's think this thing all the way to its conclusion. No matter which side gains the upper hand, it's not going to matter. Okay? Because at the end of the day, it's still up to Trump to do what he's going to be doing. And he will continue. Despite what happens here, he will continue to do what he's been doing. Okay? So, maybe by the Democrats getting the upper hand, they can start impeachment or something like that to that degree, okay? But again, do you think Trump's going to care what they come up with for an impeachment? Do you really think the Justice Department's going to be able to muscle him out of the White House? Do you think he's a guy that's not going to try to use the military to keep his fat ass in the White House? Think about this, people. Think about it. I think what's happening, and this is just my fucking theory, and you could take it or leave it, but I think what this is a big fucking smokescreen because of the Jeffrey Epstein shit that he doesn't want anybody looking at. Okay? He got his buddy governor, what's his name there in Texas, okay? He got his buddy governor in Texas to start doing this shit down there with the redistricting thing, knowing that it was going to unleash holy hell with the Democrats. Okay? And sure enough, Governor Newsom, states away from Texas, throws his hat into the ring to join the fight. And well, now it's all front page news. That's all anybody's talking about. I was eating lunch over at fucking Texas Roadhouse, and on the news screen, they're still talking about Newsom and this and the fucking. There ain't nothing mentioned today about Epstein or any of that. Okay, so I'm thinking, you know what? This could be some big convoluted plot by Trump and the governor of Texas, and I still can't remember his fucking name. Okay, Abbott. I'm sorry, Abbott. Yes, Governor Abbott in Texas. Some convoluted plot between the two of them to distract from his Epstein crap, telling him, look, start doing some shit with redistricting down there. Get the Democrats riled up, so that way they're hogging the fucking airwaves, bitching and complaining about Republicans are doing this shit. You know what I'm saying? He's going to try everything. Notice how many things have been coming out in the last couple, 2-3 weeks since, you know, the focus has been on Epstein. Think about all the things that have been trying to come out, and a lot of the stuff that was said way back has already been forgotten. Okay, nobody's talking anything more. I mean, he's done everything from, oh, we got a Nobel, he should get the Nobel Peace Prize, or the Nobel Peace Prize, as Caroline Leavitt puts it, the Nobel Peace Prize. Okay, he's done everything from declaring that he's going to do something with Israel to I want the Nobel Peace Prize, and now this, and now this, and this is, I mean, this is relatively new. It hasn't gotten that much media attention, but now, boy, does it have a lot of media attention, because they're talking about redistricting, and now another governor's threatening to do the same in his state. Okay, so distraction. People, we're talking about a crime, and they ain't just no, like, he stole some candy bars out of a fucking gas station store, okay? Sex trafficking, minors, underage kids. And MAP out there, make all Americans pedophiles. MAP is defending this son of a bitch. That makes them accomplices after the fact. That they're going to defend a goddamn pedophile. And fucking a poll had come out that was shown on TV here last night, that there's a lot of women, Republicans, who don't care about his Epstein ties. I'm thinking, what the hell's the matter with women in this country? Well, maybe I shouldn't be that surprised. If these are the same motherfuckers who voted for Trump in the first place, then they don't have a brain in their fucking head. None of them. Okay? So why would these women care in the first place about any crime he ever did? Remember what he was saying about grabbing women by the pussy and all that shit? And they didn't care. They still voted for the cocksucker. I mean, Jesus, you know? So, you know, these are women that support him of low caliber, low brow, no brains, okay? No morals, no principles, okay? Until it happens to them, they don't care. Unless Trump is raping them, they won't care. How selfish can people get? Seriously, that they have no empathy for somebody else who's been attacked, raped, molested by some guy that they like. I mean, it was easier to convince people that Bill Cosby was a rapist than it is to convince people that Donald Trump is a fucking rapist, even though he, you know, was found liable in court for having raped a woman. Okay, but that didn't seem to matter to most. Didn't matter to men, of course. MAGA men don't give a shit about rape. They do it as a fucking, you know, act of, you know, having dinner or something like that. Okay, these guys are just fucking assholes to begin with, okay? But when you hear women, you know, basically saying, I don't care if you rape me, come and rape me. You know, it's like, you know, what kind of a person are you? You got no class, no respect for yourself, and yet you're sitting here dictating how the rest of this country should follow your footsteps, and everyone should act the same. Okay? No. So, you know, this going on here, and all I can think of is that this is the people that, you know, 30% of the country, or 30% of the voters, I guess. I don't know how you want to break it down. But we'll just say a third of the country wants what Trump is doing to be done, to happen. Okay, regardless of how it affects people, you know, in all walks of life. Okay, I hope you saw that video about the farmers. Okay, these farmers were farmers who voted for Trump. And even, I think there was one in there that said, I still support Trump, even while he's watching his life in shambles because of his fucking choice, still clinging to that arrogant stand that he still supports Trump. That's sad. That's really sad. That puts a lot of fucking cults in this world to shame. That somebody who basically let the cult burn his house down is still supporting the cult. So, you know, the Republicans don't have any credibility here to be bitching about what Governor Newsom is doing in California. Greg Abbott in Texas doesn't have any credibility to complain about Democrats up and leaving his state to basically try to stop his redistricting efforts. Okay, since you already had Republicans up and leave in Washington, D.C. to avoid a vote about the Epstein files. Okay, and the Democrats are forcing their hypocrisy out in the open, because now they're going to state-sponsored media, Fox News, okay, and crying on there, playing the victim on there, saying Democrats are, you know, they're destroying everything, you know, arguing exactly about what they're doing, okay? They're making the case against the Democrats for what they're doing, and that's exactly what the Republicans are doing. So they look really stupid, coming out and threatening and doing this and that about the very same thing that they're up to. It looks really stupid, okay? But if you're not very smart, you wouldn't see that irony, would you? Think about that. You wouldn't see it, because you're not listening to the whole picture. You're not looking at the whole picture. You're only looking at this one slice of the pie here, Fox News. And they're only going to give you that one slice, but they're not going to make you compare and contrast what else is going on here and why this is happening. Because if they did that, these people at Fox would be scratching their head trying to decide whose side should I be on, because both sides, they're fighting and they're doing the same thing. Only difference is they started it. The Democrats are responding to it. They got no choice. You think they're going to let, you know, the Republicans steal 5 seats out of a state, okay, just so they can hold on to a majority before an election? Come on, don't be stupid. Of course they're going to respond. You know, I find it really kind of laughable in a way that Republicans are acting so astonished that Democrats are standing up. I guess they figured they were just going to roll over and play dead for the most part, you know. And certainly up to this point, it seems like, you know, from my perspective, they certainly weren't putting up very much of a fight, especially with everything going on with the immigration issue there and stuff like that, okay? They've been, you know, not as vocal as they should have been. I mean, Governor Newsom has been, because his state was hit hard with the ICE raids and shit like that. But this is happening all across the country, though. It's not just California. California's a big state. It's got a lot of big cities. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of that there. But you're not seeing the Midwest, where the farmers are losing their goddamn farms because they lost all their goddamn workers. Okay? When you're talking about 100% loss, they're basically saying your farm is gone. Without these people, you've got no farm. You've got acres and acres of ground that has no management. Nobody's out there to pick the crops. Without that, you've got nothing. You don't have a farm. Because how you start a farm to grow things so you can get the yield and sell it. Well, if you can't get the yield and sell it, then your farm is... and you'll end up selling it for pennies on a dollar to some corporation that's going to turn the farm, you know, turn a profit out of it, and you're going to end up working for that fucking farm because you're not going to have a job. So, you see what I'm saying? You know, the way the Republicans are doing things and then crying foul when Democrats try to defend themselves over what they're doing is laughable. They're being completely underhanded, and they have been for 7 months. And I think we've taken enough of this on the chin where it's time for the Democrats to start swinging back. Because if we don't, we're just going to allow more of the same to continue on. And, you know, hey, in 7 months, look where we are. In 7 more months, where will we be? Okay, think about that. Where are we going to be in 7 more months if we don't start fighting back? Let's go to a commercial break. We'll be right back.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Roxy Sugar, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
I hope you don't think I forgot about you, Bobo. You know, despite your loose history, I've come to the conclusion that you truly epitomize what it means to be a conservative, in the sense that the only thing you've managed to conserve is your family's generational dysfunction. Lauren Boebert's son was cited for child abuse, and in classic conservative #boymom fashion, instead of holding him accountable, she's calling it a miscommunication. In a statement, she downplayed the incident by calling it a miscommunication on monitoring my young grandson that recently led him to getting out of our house. That child is desperate to get the hell out of there. And I don't blame him one little bit. Who knows what the hell goes on behind those closed doors, Lauren? That's because one could only assume that Lauren Boebert's household makes Sodom and Gomorrah look like a Montessori school. What's some more Bible-themed jabs I could take at this Jezebel? Even the Pharaoh's kids had more discipline, Lauren, and they were literally cursed. She cries about protecting the children from drag queens. Meanwhile, her son is catching citations for child abuse. The call is coming from inside the ark. Lauren, what chapter is this from? The Book of Revelations and Ratchet? I believe so. And lastly, she taught her children Christian conservative values. That's it. That was the joke. My dear, I don't have to get into how you have time and time again contradicted everything you claim to stand for. And I don't know for the life of me how your constituents continue to give you a seat time and time again. And I know you're probably really upset about this news coming out because you've been trying to lay low, both politically and in your dating life. But no matter what is going on in this world, I will always make sure you catch strays. Much like the person who found your grandson. Those microchips you claim to be in vaccines don't sound like such a bad idea now, do they? For someone who became a grandma at 36, you'd think you have more energy to keep up. Just say, I've said it once and I've said it again. Lauren is the perfect representation of MAGA conservative Christians everywhere. And much like your grandson, I'll say, anyways, bye!
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it. It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, welcome back, people. Got this other video from Kyle Kulinski, and he heard something from Scott Jennings on CNN there that really pissed him off. Okay, and I think he's got every right to be pissed off about it. So let's go take a look at that video, and then we'll come back and discuss that.
Why mainstream media is insistent on having some Republican voices on their panels, having some MAGA voices on their panels. Like, I get it. But at the same time, that decision is quite literally hurting the country. Like, objectively hurting the country. Because they're aiming for this whole neutrality thing, this whole, oh, look, we're balanced thing. We're representing all perspectives. But what do you do in a scenario where one of the two major political parties has gone completely rogue, completely fascist? They're in favor of a genocide. They're in favor of an ethno-apartheid terror state. What do you do in a situation like that? Well, if I was in charge, I would just be like, we're done with these people. We're not having them on. And to the extent we have any of them on, it's to mock them, it's to shame them, it's to beat them into the fucking ground and destroy them, right? Well, there's this asshole on CNN. His name is Scott Jennings. Really high in his own supply, really thinks he's God's gift to this earth. And he's like, the MAGA voice on the CNN panels. And this guy is smug, he's arrogant, he's dumb, he's a dipshit. And he really got caught speeding recently because he basically did Holocaust denial right in front of everybody's face. So they're talking about the starvation in Gaza, and he says something so preposterous that the otherwise mild-mannered CNN host has to go in there and fucking check his ass and lay down the law. Watch this.
People are seeing things with their own eyes, and what they're seeing is massive amounts of propaganda. Look what the New York Times had to admit to just in the last few days. I've heard what did the New York Times admit? Running a photo that was a complete and total hoax.
They admitted that they ran a photo of a starving child who also had a disease.
You're gonna defend this?
Is that the admission?
It's a hoax.
You're gonna act like people aren't starving?
And it was sent around the world to make people think that Israel had starved that child.
They did starve that child. They did. By the way, the illness stemmed from the fact that when the mom was pregnant, she didn't have adequate nutrition because Israel put Palestine on a diet. So it literally all stems from Israel starving Palestinians in Gaza. All of it stems from that. It's not an opinion. This is a fact. This is a straightforward fact. This guy, I gotta catch myself. Might fuck around and catch a ban if I'm not careful.
You're going to act like people aren't starving?
And it was sent around the world to make people think that Israel had starved that child. He had a pre-existing condition.
What about all the other children in that story? What about them? Are they a hoax?
Abby.
See, he didn't even read the fucking article. He didn't even read the article. This is why Abby, who actually read the article, is going, well, what about the other ones? Even if I grant you your preposterous notion that it's a hoax. So this one kid, the reason he's like that is just because of his illness, not because he's being starved to death. Even if I grant you that, which I don't, what about the other fucking kids? What about we've already had over 100 die of starvation, and that number's skyrocketing on a daily basis. What about them? Did they all have some sort of illness? No. It's the policy of Israel. They say it's Scott Jennings. They say we're not allowing in food, fuel, and water. They're open about that fact. Sometimes they lie when they speak to Western audiences, but the key is listen to what they say in Hebrew. Because in Hebrew, if you click translate on a Hebrew tweet, it is true. That old adage is true. It sounds like a fucking missing page of Mein Kampf if you click translate on a Hebrew tweet. So they're not hiding it, they're saying it, bro. Like the propaganda, the lengths these people go to, the extremes they go to try to protect this bloodthirsty, genocidal, psychopathic terror state is something that should fucking haunt them forever. I mean, these people should not be allowed in polite society for the rest of fucking time.
Are they a hoax?
Abby, there is a coordinated propaganda campaign right now to paint a distorted picture of what's happening.
Are all of those other children a hoax?
Some of them are. There have been other stories about children that Israel's actually paying to have taken care of for their pre-existing conditions.
There have been 25 people who died of starvation.
Scott,
hang on a second. You just claimed that this whole thing
They ran a correction.
What you claimed was that all of these young people, not just young people, but everybody in the world, the photos that they're seeing, the stories that they're reading, the first-person accounts are a hoax? Are they a hoax?
I'm saying that the photo that the New York Times ran and then ran a correction on is a part of a propaganda campaign that is occurring right now.
I do not agree with you on...
Unbelievable. That's like saying, well, Anne Frank actually died of typhus. Is that really the Nazis' fault? Yes. Yeah, like, what are we doing? Oh, my God.
And then ran a correction on is a part of a propaganda campaign that is occurring right now.
I do not agree with you on the New York Times photo, but let's say that one was wrong. They ran a correction. Fine. What about all of the other children?
Sure.
What about all of the other people?
All of the other hoaxes?
So when you say that this is a hoax, Scott, Scott, I'm putting a stop to the talking points. Okay? That's what I'm doing here.
Are you?
Because I'm talking about human beings.
When are we going to put a stop to the propaganda?
Listen, we've said it before on this show. We are talking about real things here. Not talking points. Leave the talking points at the door.
Can I give you another example?
So let's be clear. He's just a Holocaust denier. That's all it is. He is just a Holocaust denier. They have been live streaming a genocide in 4K for nearly 2 years. And this motherfucker has the nerve to say, it's a hoax that kids are starving. What are you talking? Within the first week, Israeli officials were out there going, no food, no fuel, no water, no electricity. We're shutting that whole bitch down. We're doing a total siege. They're Amalek. They're all evil. Kill all of them, including the women and the children. 70% of the dead. I hope you guys are listening to this. 70% of the dead. Women, children, and elderly. 70%. It's a hoax that people are starving. I don't know. So here's my question for you. Is he an idiot or is he a liar? Because I'm going liar. I'm going check his bank account to see how much money AIPAC and the Israel lobby are giving him. That's what I'm going. So let me ask this question to Scott Jennings. Is this fake too? New, Gaza's health ministry reports 6 more adults have been starved to death in the past 24 hours. The total number of victims of hunger and malnutrition has now reached 175, including 93 children. And I'll warn you guys before I click play on this video, but this is hard to look at. But you need to see it.
This photo of a skin and bones Gaza toddler has sparked both international outrage and controversy. Widely circulated in international media, the photo provided yet another evidence of the starvation gripping Gaza due to Israel's severe blockade and near total closure of the Gaza Strip.
It's a hoax. It's a hoax, according to Scott Jennings. Is this a hoax? Breaking. Atef Abu Qater, a young boy in Gaza, has starved to death. Another victim of Israel's siege war on Gaza. Is this a hoax too? Is this kid a hoax? Scott Jennings? Tell me that kid's a hoax. Tell me all of the 175 who died of starvation are a hoax. Tell me we're on the brink of thousands now dying of starvation. They all a hoax? What about the GHF whistleblower? What about Anthony Aguilar, who came out and said, GHF is a fucking farce. It's a total scam. This thing is a ruse. What's happening is you got innocent people rushing to get food and IDF soldiers gunning them down every time they try to get food and water. Is that a hoax? Is it a hoax? Is it a hoax when the BBC documented, 165 different examples of children under the age of 12 getting shot in the face and shot in the chest? Was that a hoax? Is it all a hoax? Is it a hoax when Israeli military officials and Benjamin Netanyahu, when they all come out and say, we're going to kill them, including the civilians, because there are no civilians. Is that a hoax? Jesus Christ, bro. He's a Holocaust denier. And he should lose his job. See, this is the problem. Under the guise of balance and neutrality, we've allowed in these MAGA psychopaths who are the equivalent of Nazis. Like, that's just Nazi shit. When you're doing Holocaust denial, and in a sense, it's almost even more bizarre and more extreme because it's all on video right in front of you right now, and you're still denying it. So what do you do in a scenario where so many people in the political conversation are just Nazis? They're just Nazis. They're wrong about everything. They're vile. They're cretins. They're liars. What do you do? Well, I know what I would do. I would say, you're done. You're cooked. We're not having you on. You're a liar. If you're going to lie to the audience that brazenly, you're liable to lie about anything. You're lying about a genocide right now in real time. What would you not lie about? What would you not lie about? So, yeah, he should be fired. I mean, when you get to the point where these milquetoast, like, down the middle CNN hosts like Abby Phillips, when she's fucking disgusted and offended by your idiocy, man, you know you cross a line. You know you're really fucking gross. You know you're really low, man. And that's what he is. And everybody sees it. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm.
Well, I gotta say, you know, it really, it really boggles the mind that CNN would have a guy like that say something like that, and he still has a job. I mean, didn't they learn anything from Alex Jones when he was talking about the Sandy Hook being a fucking hoax? Remember that? Wasn't that long ago. I suppose Scott feels he can get away with doing it this way because none of the victims over in Gaza is going to sue him for libel for, you know, saying something like that, so he can say something as ridiculous as what Alex Jones said and not have to worry about being sued. But then that means CNN ought to be sued, because if they're not going to fire this cocksucker for having said that, then CNN is owning the fucking lie, the hoax, okay? They're owning it, which means they should be fucking sued. You see what I'm saying? I mean, if they can't sue Scott, then they should sue CNN, because he has to answer to them. So if he goes on air and he says something stupid like that, stupid, without any fucking proof, just a goddamn conspiracy nut, and says something, that this thing going on is just a hoax. If he says something like that and CNN doesn't fire his ass, then they need to be sued. Period. I mean, a lot of people over the last few, years, I guess, have had problems with CNN lately. Saying that, they're turning more right-wing than they should. I mean, I don't know, because I don't really watch television news that much anymore. I used to, but I've been, I can see that a lot of commentators that pop up on these fucking things, they're only there to agitate, and get people pissed off. And it's like, if the news itself isn't getting you agitated and pissed off, then why should you add someone's mouth on there to enrage you further by doing like what this guy did? Say, oh, that's all a hoax. What you just saw is all a hoax. Okay? It's like, no, I'm sorry, but the news, the pictures, they don't lie. This ain't CGI. This is not AI. Okay? This is fucking real. This is happening. You don't get the right to sit there and say this is a hoax and not show us some fucking evidence to back up your fucking mouth. You don't write a fucking check unless you can back it up with your ass. Okay? And this is the thing that I don't like about a lot of commentators, especially, Fox News, I don't even watch that anyway, but a lot of commentators you see online, okay? Because a lot of these people get on the air and they don't provide you with any real facts. They give you suspicions, theory, and they don't say it before they say it. They don't say, well, what I'm going to tell you is an opinion or a theory. No, they deliver that as if it's fact, as if I know this is what's going on, okay? That's what Alex Jones does. That's what made him such a watchable person, because people trusted him. I don't know why. I mean, one look at this guy, I could tell the guy was a fucking liar. He just looks like one. But anyway, aside from that, the thing of it is that when you got these people online who make a living taking your money and then lying to your face after you give them your money, okay, these fucking people have ruined what we once had as a press, because people have given up watching TV news and watching the internet crap. And so in order for the TV news to fight back and get the viewers back, they have to turn themselves into a version of something that's done online. That's the thing. There's a tug of war between viewers here, between the internet and the regular the cable, or whatever you want to call it, television. So they figure the press has to be more ridiculous. you know, and I don't know why, because Fox News really doesn't get, you know, the same viewers like they used to. They've been hemorrhaging viewers for a long time, because most of the people that watch that fucking channel are a lot of older people, not too many young people, okay? And because young people today don't get their news from the television, okay? They really don't watch it on TV. They watch you know, online, okay? They have their choice they go to, and that's where they get their fucking news. So, and plus everything today has to be in sound bites. People don't like to listen to the whole story. They just want sound bites or a headline, and then they base all their opinions on it instead of the whole story. And that's another fault of people today when they get the news. They don't read it all the way through. And so you got people reading the, you know, let's just say we have one story, you got 100 people that read it, and maybe 40% of it will understand the story. The rest will have, like, you know, where did you get that from? You'll be asking questions like that because they interpreted it in their own way, because they didn't read the whole thing. You see, disinformation coming from people who don't read all the fucking story or get all the facts. Okay? So you get this guy here on CNN who apparently feels like you got to be like this to be a, you know, an antagonist or whatever in order to get people to watch. And what happened? He says he called this thing over in Gaza a hoax, and then people got pissed, and now they're writing CNN to have him fired. Okay? If they don't, I mean, somebody should sue them, you know? Somebody should sue them. I think they have grounds, especially when you try to force Scott to provide evidence to back up his fucking mouth, and he can't do it. Just like what happened with the Dominion voting machines. You know, you had Fox sitting here saying, oh, it's all rigged, these things are, you know, and they're saying, no, they're not. And we want you to retract that, okay? And you're hurting our business, so we're going to sue you, okay? See what I'm saying? So, same thing. I mean, if you don't respond to these lies when they come out, then people will be encouraged to continue. You know? That's why, you know, when I talk to you people out there, and I say I'm going to tell you, I'll tell you if it's an opinion, a theory, or whatever, and I let you weigh it accordingly. I'm not going to feed you a fact and say it's fact. You know, if I'm not sure of it, I'm going to tell you, well, this is where I read it, or I saw this here or there. You know, I'm not going to just conjure up something and then pass it on to you as if I'm reporting to you an actual fact. Okay? I'm not going to do that. Okay? I have more respect for people in that regard. That there's so much swill out there in this world that it's time for people to find somebody who isn't going to throw that swill in your face still, okay? I don't like it. You don't like it. Nobody likes it, okay? So, you know, I try to label the things that I say, you know, as opinion, or, you know, fact from this, or, you know, just a theory, or what, you know what I'm saying. And to me, it's easier when you just admit up front, you know, what you're saying. That, I mean, people will still listen and think about it, and if they don't agree with it, they'll reject it. Fine, that's the way it's supposed to work. Okay? But when you watch the news, you don't want it to be given to you as, well, this is all opinion. If everything in the news is just opinion, then why watch it? But that's what it is today. Fox News, it's all opinion. Everything that's presented to you is opinion. What they do is they start with a story, and after that, it's opinion. Let's bring it to this panel, and they argue it back and forth, and most of the time, what they're talking about is opinion, and they're trying to make you digest that and turn that into fact, because then when you tell other people about what you saw on TV, you're telling them, oh, this was a fact, this is really happening. No, you heard an opinion. It's not fact. You see what I'm saying? It's very easy. That's how they brainwash you on Fox, is they tell you the story and then they give you opinions about it. They don't want you to think. They don't want you to think too much on that story. They want you to think about what they say about that story. It's a very interesting way of brainwashing people without torture. Because, you know, that's the way we, you know, and not in days not that long ago, how we used to get people to do things and convince them of things is through torture, waterboarding, stuff like that. We don't have to do all that with the public. All we got to do, you know, is make something look attractive and then have them start, you know, vomiting out bullshit. Okay? And if it fits the narrative that they have already in their heads about people or a certain group of people based on their, you know, prejudices or whatnot, it's easy to sell that opinion. Okay? And this guy, Scott here, fucking idiot. Maybe he ought to be out on Fox News, I guess. But he's trying to do that shit on CNN. And we have to put a border there and say, look, CNN, you cannot turn yourself into Fox. If people want to be like that, let them get a job at Fox. But people need to have fair and balanced somewhere out there in the media. And if we can't get it from Fox or whatever other Republican-controlled outfit there is that's doing the same thing, if we can't get it from them, we got to get it from you. We got to get it from, you know, these other outfits. Stop fucking doing this shit. So what if you lose ratings? That's not the be-all and end-all of giving people the news. They'll either read it or they won't read it. They'll either listen or they won't listen. But stop with the fucking opinions and theories and shit like that and making people think it's fact. Because you know what happened after Scott said what he said. People were thinking, oh, you know what? That is a hoax. That's how easy it is. That's how fucking easy it is. He had no proof to provide to show that he was right or anywhere near right. But he delivered it as if it was fact. And so people sitting here thinking that it is. What's his agenda? Why did he say that? Ratings, maybe? Maybe he's like anti-Palestinian or something. You know, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know Scott personally. I don't know where he stands religiously. I don't know. Okay? All I know is that what he said did not have any fucking basis in fact. He did not deliver. He gave you an idea delivered on a trash can lid. Okay? That in itself is a sign that it's meaningless. You know, it's just bullcrap. So we really don't have to take what he just said there on CNN and say that there's any fact to that. People don't starve themselves to create a hoax, especially with little kids. People don't end up dead at a school shooting and buried and say that was a hoax. Okay, come on. There's more credibility in the UFOs coming and visiting us periodically than there was with the Sandy Hook theory of that was a hoax, or this hoax that's been delivered now about Gaza. I'm sorry, but I would believe in Bigfoot but more than that. I would believe in the Loch Ness monster than that. Okay? So, you know, what do I think? I think that, you know, we got a long way to go in this country to fix the things that's wrong with it, because think about, if you have the time, okay, think about how we got here. Okay? Think about it. Objectively, think about it. For Christ's sake, try. You know, think about, you know, when you were a kid, what was it like? And then think about all the changes that gradually got into our lives and how we are here today. And then think about how the influence of all these changes brought us here. I mean, I do this a lot, thinking about, you know, Christ, you know, if we didn't have that, this might not have happened. Or if we didn't have this, we wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? I think about that all the time. And one of the big things in my lifetime that I saw that really affected the country in a negative way was the internet. Okay, because we had no idea at the time just how powerful an instrument that is. Okay, that got us in touch with knowledge, yes, but it also got us in touch with our, darker sides, and it opened the door for people of nefarious character to get involved in the internet process, and they started doing, like viruses all of a sudden started popping up, and then people making web pages and stuff that were inappropriate, or, you know what I'm saying? It brought in a lot of things because we weren't ready for that. We didn't think about, maybe we should implement some regulation here before we start this fucking thing up here. We'll just start it off slow, like only knowledge, okay, just information for the beginning. Let's not have any of this chat thing going on yet. Let's just start the internet off as like a library source for people to get information, like an encyclopedia online. And then we can slowly introduce other aspects of living into it. Maybe we could start the chat thing, but it's going to be supervised, by government agency to make sure that what's said is, in the guidelines of whatever, what I'm saying? Like certain things you can't say. Okay, we just rushed right in and we opened that fucking door wide open and we ran right into that son of a bitch. That's how we did it, okay? That's how we did it. I think we had a little more care about the television being part of our lives than we did with the internet. I think we had more care about the radio being introduced in our lives than we did about television. When it came to the internet, there was no care at all. They just rushed that thing out there because there was money to be made. There was money to be made. Okay? It was a gold mine of opportunity there, and they weren't going to back off on nothing. They weren't going to just slowly introduce that to get a little trickle of money. No. They were going to push this whole thing in its entirety out on the public. And it didn't matter who was being affected by it, didn't matter about the crimes being committed on there, didn't matter at all about any of that. Okay? So, a lot of things have changed. And, like I said, it led to the creation of all these big mouths like Alex Jones using the internet for their purposes. And to this day, we still don't have a grip on that fucking system yet. It still runs rampant. It's like the old west, on the internet. People resist having government regulate it, and I think that's wrong. I think it should be regulated, just like we should be regulating guns in this country, okay, because people take things and they abuse it. Not everybody, but enough to make it worth thinking about, okay? You can't always get, you can't stop every gun crime, can't stop every internet crime, but God damn it, you can put a dent in it, Jesus. Try. Don't give up before the fight starts. Try. Take steps. Look at the results, and see, that there are some solutions somewhere, I mean, there's been some great ideas thrown around about things like that, but no one's willing to implement that or try it out. So, but now, like I said, we've let things get so far off kilter that we're swamped with issues that need to be fixed, and I don't think we can really fix the government as a whole without actually fixing some of the problems that brought us to where we are now. Because think about it, the right wing used a lot of those issues to get itself into power, making people afraid of homosexuals and the LGBTQ, and then the gun issue was another issue that they would campaign on to get, and then abortion. Okay, they would take all the stuff and hold that up in our face to scare us or whatnot, and then we would make some bad choices based on what they were saying. Okay, and that brought us to where we are, I think, and it took years. It took a long time. They were playing the long game, and I'm surprised Democrats never saw it. They never saw it, because I know a lot of smart people could see the handwriting on the wall where the Republicans were taking us. But none of the Democrats, at least, you know, a good many of them, what the hell are you doing, Nia? None of them were really interested in cogitating on what's going on. Bet they're kicking themselves in the ass now about it. All right, so that's it for today. So I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. So subscribe, comment, share, keep your ears open for health-related issues, and treat your neighbors well, because you're going to need them sooner or later. So I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.